Not Nicholas Nickleby? That's K-N-I-C-K-E-R. Nicholas?
No.
Or Christmas Carol with a Q?
No, definitely not.
Marty Feldman could steal a scene before saying a word. Those famous eyes, wild expressions, and fearless jokes made him impossible to ignore. But the laughter covered a life far more complicated than fans ever saw. Behind the strange face was a lonely boy, a restless writer, a devoted husband, and a man who never stopped fighting to prove he was more than a sight gag. Success brought television fame, Hollywood films, friends, and chances he once could only dream about. Yet every victory seemed to carry another cost. Some wounds began in childhood, others followed him into fame, and just when Marty seemed ready to begin again, everything changed. Join us as we uncover the hidden pain, risky choices, broken dreams, and tragic truth behind Marty Feldman, the boy who never felt he belonged. Martin Allen Feldman was born on July 8, 1934, in Canning Town, in the East End of London. His parents, Cecilia and Meyer Feldman, were Jewish immigrants who had both come from Kiev in Ukraine. Meyer made gowns, but money was often tight. Marty later remembered the family leaving rented rooms because they could not pay what they owed. The fear of losing a home became part of his childhood. Then war made life even less secure. Like many London children, Marty was sent to the countryside during the Second World War. He later called those years solitary. He was far from home, mixed poorly with other children, and often felt that he belonged nowhere. School did not help. Marty was usually the only Jewish child in the room. He said teachers did not know what to do with him during Bible lessons, so they gave him extra mathematics instead. His joke was simple. The Bible must have been hard work because God knows maths was. Behind the laugh was a child who already understood what it meant to be treated as different. He moved through many schools, ran away from some, and was expelled from others. By 15, he claimed he had been thrown out of some of the worst schools in London. He was bullied for being Jewish, and fights followed him. A cricket ball once broke his nose. He struck back and was expelled again. Yet English was the one subject where he showed real talent. At 11, he wrote a poem so good that his teachers accused him of stealing it. He insisted it was his own, but they punished him anyway. That moment deepened his dislike of formal education. Comedy became his escape. After seeing Danny Kaye, 12-year-old Marty tried stand-up at a bar mitzvah, smoking and joking about his wife. The stolen material failed. He admired Laurel and Hardy, but Buster Keaton became his hero. "I feel about Keaton the way an organist thinks of Bach," he said. But before comedy could save him, his body would give the world another painful reason to stare closely. How tragedy created his famous look. Marty's famous appearance did not come from one event. He suffered from thyroid disease and later developed Graves's eye disease. The condition pushed his eyes forward and left them badly misaligned. Surgery may have made the bulging worse. Other accounts pointed to a childhood injury, a car crash, a boating accident, and reconstructive surgery. Marty had nearly drowned when young, and doctors reportedly performed a tracheotomy. Boxing also broke his nose several times. He joked that his nose proved he was a poor fighter, while the scar on his forehead proved he was a bad cricket player. Marty turned that painful history into one brutal joke. It was, as he put it, the sum total of the disasters of my life. The laughter hid how hard those disasters could be. He had been bullied as a boy, and each cruel look deepened his sense of being different. Still, Marty refused to believe that other people's reactions should decide his worth, his confidence, or the future he might build. Physically, "I am basically equipped to be a clown," he said. Instead of hiding, he learned to control the attention. He understood that the same eyes people mocked could hold a camera better than an ordinary handsome face ever could on screen. When asked why he did not have them corrected, he gave one of his sharpest answers. "If he tried to look like Robert Redford," he said, "he would end up like every other actor with 2 lines on Kojak. But this way, I'm a novelty." He never claimed the pain had vanished. He simply refused to let it win. Even his diet came from an early shock. During the war, a rabbit he had played with appeared on his dinner plate. He became a committed vegetarian and later joked that he would not eat intelligent life, though he would gladly eat a network executive or politician. That mix of hurt, defiance, and humor was already forming. Still, he had no clear career, little education, and no safe path. At 15, he walked away from school and chased anything that looked like freedom. Before comedy, Marty tried almost everything. Freedom did not bring Marty any immediate success. Instead, he drifted through strange jobs, cities, and trouble. He worked at Dreamland Fun Fair in Margate, where he handled rides and stalls. He also worked as a fairground barker, helped a hypnotist, joined touring acts, and later claimed he had even driven a getaway car for an East End criminal. The stories were hard to separate from his jokes. For a time, he lived around Soho, and even squatted in a gardener's hut in Soho Square. He stole books on philosophy and history, read them, then sold them to second-hand shops. He entered poetry circles as a rising talent. Some poems were published, and Dylan Thomas reportedly supported him. Music, however, was his first dream. Marty loved jazz and wanted to become a trumpet player. He traveled to Paris and found gigs. Confidence could not replace skill. He later called himself the world's worst trumpet player. He told musicians that tuberculosis had weakened his chest, and they must carry him until he caught up. He never had tuberculosis. Even so, jazz gave him something important. He later compared comedy writing to musicians riffing together, each person listening and moving an idea forward together naturally. During those years, he joined Joe Moe and Mitch Reveille to form Morris, Marty, and Mitch. Their mix of music, slapstick, and dance was dreadful. One theater paid them to stop performing, but still demanded a final bow. Before it, a fight broke out at the stage door. Marty and Mitch appeared before the audience covered in blood, and the confused crowd assumed the fight was part of the act. Marty knew the trio was finished, yet he kept writing jokes, poems, and sketches. He waited outside theaters trying to sell lines to working comics. People ignored him, but Marty kept studying what made a joke land and why performers held rooms. The failed trio had shown him that confidence alone was not enough. Now, older and still struggling, he finally met people who saw that his real gift was not the trumpet or the stage. It was the pen. Loretta, Long Nights, and his first success. Marty's first real opening came when Scottish comedy writer John Law noticed him during a stage act and saw promise. Law guided him toward radio, where only the jokes mattered. Marty began writing for Educating Archie, a BBC show starring ventriloquist Peter Brough and his dummy Archie Andrews. A radio ventriloquist seemed ridiculous because listeners saw nothing. He was also uneasy around the dummy. Still, the job gave him work, pay, and a place inside British comedy. Marty had met Barry Took while they were both performers in 1954. Their shared humor formed a writing partnership that lasted about 20 years. Love soon gave his private life stability. In January 1959, Marty married Loretta Sullivan, beginning a marriage that lasted until his death. She witnessed the hard writing years, television awards, and eventual move into Hollywood. Friends said women found Marty highly attractive despite his unusual appearance. But Loretta remained the only clearly documented partner at the center of his private life throughout those years. Marty and Barry wrote The Army Game and much of Bootsy and Snudge. They completed 39 episodes, over 950 script minutes, in 10 months alongside other programs. The pressure made Marty moody and unreliable, but his strange imagination stayed clear. One episode even gave a character a full conversation with an ant. Next came Round the Horn. The BBC radio series drew as many as 15 million listeners per episode. Its satire, camp humor, and sexual hints pushed boundaries. Marty and Barry used polari, slang from gay and theater circles, for the flamboyant characters Julian and Sandy. While homosexuality was illegal in Britain, those sketches quietly carried gay humor into millions of homes. BBC executives could hardly object without admitting they understood the slang themselves. Some later writers linked the characters to changing attitudes before the law changed in 1967. Marty was not gay, but his Jewish childhood had taught him how society marked outsiders. Dennis Norden placed Feldman and Took in the front rank of comedy writers. The public did not know Marty's face, but television would soon make his writing impossible to ignore. The hidden mind behind British comedy. By 1966, Marty had become chief writer and script editor on The Frost Report, David Frost's BBC television series. The show brought together major talent, including John Cleese, Ronnie Barker, and Ronnie Corbett, while future Monty Python members Graham Chapman, Michael Palin, and Terry Jones worked behind the scenes. Marty was no longer the struggling young man selling jokes outside theaters. He was helping shape a new kind of British comedy. With John Law, he wrote the famous Class sketch, where Cleese, Barker, and Corbett used their different heights to mock Britain's class system. Marty also wrote lines and catchphrases for performers such as Bernard Bresslaw and Dick Emery. His work helped connect old variety comedy with the sharper, stranger satire that soon followed. His support also mattered to younger writers. Michael Palin later said Marty's praise was the first real encouragement he and Terry Jones ever received. To them, approval from someone that talented felt like proof they belonged. Marty's comedy was playful, but never harmless. He believed humor should challenge authority, not protect it. He once compared comedy to painting a mustache on the Mona Lisa, calling it a spontaneous act of anarchy. That attitude shaped both his writing and the way he treated powerful people. Yet even at his most successful, some still believed he belonged behind the camera. David Frost reportedly worried that Marty's grotesque looks and unusual eyes might frighten viewers. Marty had heard cruel judgments before, but this time, Cleese, Chapman, and Tim Brooke-Taylor pushed back. They wanted him to perform beside them in a new sketch show. Marty assumed acting would be a brief experiment before he returned to writing. Frost feared audiences would reject him. Both were wrong. Once the camera turned toward Marty, British comedy found a star nobody had planned for. The face television was afraid to show. At last, the 1948 show placed Marty before viewers in 1967 beside Cleese, Chapman, and Brooke-Taylor. Its title mocked slow television executives, but the comedy moved quickly. Marty's characters often behaved like cheerful threats. Cleese remembered one as Mr. Pest. In a famous sketch, Marty tormented a shop assistant by asking for invented books, including Ethel the Aardvark Goes Quantity Surveying. He also helped write and perform the Four Yorkshiremen sketch with Chapman, Cleese, and Brooke-Taylor. The men turned childhood hardship into an absurd contest. Monty Python later made the sketch famous on stage, but Marty had been there at its birth. The show led toward Python and proved Frost wrong. Audiences did not turn away from Marty. They could not stop watching him. His eyes, Loose movements and timing made even a pause feel dangerous. The BBC soon gave him his own series, Marty, in 1968. Its budget allowed outdoor filming, stunts, silent comedy, and rare visual ideas for British viewers at home. He later called The Loneliness of the Long-Distance Golfer the best thing he ever made and the closest he came to Buster Keaton. The show won 2 BAFTA awards, while its first series received the Golden Rose at Montreux. A second series followed as It's Marty. Fame arrived quickly. Marty moved through fashionable London clubs, mixed with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and became part of the late 1960s scene. Success also brought drinking, drugs, long nights, and a feeling that normal limits no longer applied. "I think the success went straight to my crutch," he later joked. He recorded the albums Marty and I Feel a Song Going Off, showing that his old love of music had not disappeared. Film roles followed, including The Bed Sitting Room and the lead in Every Home Should Have One. That 1970 comedy let him play an advertising man whose private mistakes nearly destroyed his home. It showed he could carry a film with warmth as well as strange physical comedy. But behind the confidence, his closest creative bond was cracking, while a much larger audience waited across the Atlantic. Breaking with Britain and facing America. Every Home Should Have One did not save Marty's longest partnership. After years of deadlines, both men were exhausted. The film became their last major project together. Took later compared the split to ending a love affair and called it a real divorce. Marty lost his strongest partner as his career moved beyond Britain. The BBC had sold some Marty sketches to America without his knowledge. Those clips led to The Dean Martin Show, and then The Marty Feldman Comedy Machine, a British-American series filmed at Elstree Studios. Produced by ATV and ABC, it created 15 episodes across 1971 and 1972, followed by a brief return. It did not last, but gave Marty an American audience. In 1971, his rebellious humor also entered a real courtroom. Marty supported defendants in the Oz magazine obscenity trial. He refused to swear on the Bible and chose to affirm. When the judge treated Christianity as the only religion, Marty turned court into a sketch. Asked to explain satire, he quoted a BBC producer who allowed 2 bloodies and 1 bastard if a writer removed 1 tit. The trial became a public, free expression fight, and the convictions were overturned. Marty then appeared in a television version of The Man Who Came to Dinner and continued guest work. In Britain, producers tried to revive his earlier magic with the 1974 series Marty Back Together Again. Its title played on reports about his health, showing how closely his body and career had become linked. The new series never matched Marty or It's Marty. He was famous, but still unable to decide which version of him the industry wanted. Britain saw a writer, creator, and unusual leading man. America was beginning to see a comic face that could steal a scene. Hollywood now pulled Marty closer, as bigger offers carried even bigger risks. Then Gene Wilder caught the Marty Feldman Comedy Machine late at night. He was developing a black-and-white Frankenstein comedy and needed a hunchbacked assistant who felt foolish, friendly, and slightly dangerous. Wilder wrote Igor with Marty in mind, opening the door to the film that changed everything. One strange role changed his life forever. Young Frankenstein brought Marty to American cinema in 1974 and gave him the role that defined his Hollywood career. Gene Wilder played Frederick Frankenstein, while Marty became Igor, the crooked assistant whose name was pronounced Igor. Mel Brooks quickly saw why the part suited him. He joked that Marty's eyes looked like hard-boiled eggs with the pupils painted in the wrong places, but he also believed nobody else could play Igor the same way. Marty began improvising almost at once. In the station scene, Igor told Frederick to walk this way, handed him a stick, and made him copy the limp. Marty thought the joke was too old and wanted it cut, but Brooks kept it. Audiences loved it. The line later helped inspire Aerosmith's hit, Walk This Way, which became famous again through Run DMC. Another running joke involved Igor's hump changing sides. When Frederick questioned it, Igor simply replied, "What hump?" Marty gave the character mischief, warmth, and just enough danger to make him more than a simple comic servant. The film copied the look of 1930s horror movies. Brooks shot it in black and white, used old-style transitions, and reused laboratory equipment from the 1931 Frankenstein. Young Frankenstein became a major success, earned 2 Academy Award nominations, and was later selected for the National Film Registry. The role made Marty known across America. He followed it with The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes's Smarter Brother and Brooks's silent movie, which gave him room to use the physical comedy he loved. He also appeared in Italian comedy and shared a playful Muppet Show scene with Cookie Monster, comparing their eyes side by side. Hollywood had welcomed him. It offered something even more tempting than fame, control. Hollywood gave him control, then took it back. After Young Frankenstein, Sherlock Holmes's Smarter Brother, and Silent Movie, Universal offered Marty a multi-film deal to create his own work. For once, the studio seemed ready to trust his ideas. He could write, direct, and star. Marty explained his goal clearly. "I don't want to be a director, I want to direct. There is a difference." His directorial debut became the last remake of Beau Geste in 1977. He wrote it with Chris Allen, starred, and gathered Michael York, Peter Ustinov, Anne Margaret, James Earl Jones, and Trevor Howard. The film attacked military glory with Marty's old disrespect for authority. One line compared medals to hemorrhoids because every fool eventually got one. Some accounts claimed Marty had meant to pitch a spoof of The Four Feathers, but became tangled while describing it. Truth or joke, production brought a painful lesson. Poor test screenings made studio executives nervous. They took the picture and changed the edit, leaving Marty without control. The response did not save his deal or the creative respect he expected from Universal at that stage. While promoting the movie, Marty also denounced Anita Bryant's campaign against homosexuality. He said he wished more straight people would openly stand against her. The position matched the sympathy for outsiders that had shaped his earlier work. Marty described himself as an avowed socialist, although he enjoyed mocking the distance between his beliefs and his Hollywood life. "I'm a socialist by conviction, if not by lifestyle," he admitted. He joked that he needed American earnings to pay taxes owed to the socialist government he had supported in Britain. When a labor minister assumed Marty voted labor, he claimed he answered, "No, I don't, because I'm a socialist." He usually avoided speaking seriously about American politics because he considered himself a guest, but he never became a quiet studio employee. He disliked the gaudy rich and felt more comfortable playing football with Italian waiters he had befriended. "Money can't buy poverty," he joked. Yet one difficult film had not killed his ambition. Marty prepared a second attack on power, this time aimed at religion, television, and money. The second gamble falls apart. Marty's second film as writer and director was In God We Trust, released in 1980. He played Brother Ambrose, a monk sent to Los Angeles to raise money for his monastery. The monk falls for a prostitute and faces Reverend Armageddon T. Thunderbird, a rich television preacher played by Andy Kaufman. Richard Pryor, Louise Lasser, and Peter Boyle appeared. Marty attacked televangelism, Organized religion, greed, and power. Thunderbird announces that money cannot buy happiness because only power can do that. Another joke says God made some people poor because the Bible came in paperback. The satire arrived while religious conservatism was becoming stronger in the United States. Later, preacher scandals would make Marty's warning seem far ahead of its time. Reviews were poor, the box office was worse, and Universal ended his contract. The future Universal promised vanished after Marty completed only 2 directing projects. Then his friend John Lennon was murdered, pushing Marty into another stand. The loss felt personal, and public silence no longer seemed acceptable to him after that. He became an anti-gun advocate in America and appeared on the late-night show Fridays wearing an anti-gun shirt and hat pin. Yet strong opinions could not return him to the position he had lost. Marty entered what he called the Hollywood wilderness. He accepted work on Hollywood Squares, The Johnny Carson Show, and U.S. Against the World to remain visible. These jobs kept his face on television, but they offered little of the control that had pulled him to Hollywood. He joked that he had won an award for being the best loser. The line sounded light, but professional disappointment had hit him hard. Dudley Moore later remembered Marty as a jolly man, with a serious, almost morose side. By the early 1980s, that hidden side had more reasons to surface. Marty had fame, a lasting marriage, and a role audiences would never forget. Yet his own films had failed, and the studio dream was over. He began considering a return to England and television writing. Before he could make that move, another comedy offered one last chance to rebuild. One last film led him toward tragedy. His final movie was Yellowbeard, a pirate comedy co-written by Graham Chapman, who played the title character. The project was modest, but placed Marty among friends. John Cleese, Eric Idle, Madeline Kahn, Peter Cook, Peter Boyle, Spike Milligan, Cheech Marin, and others filled the cast. Marty played Gilbert, a bumbling pirate. He did not love the script, yet enjoyed the company and clearly found his old comic rhythm again. Filming took the group to Mexico City. Mexico City's high altitude later became one theory, while Marty's daily habits raised separate concerns about his health. Mel Brooks later described Marty as smoking up to half a carton, or 6 packs, of cigarettes each day. He also drank large amounts of black coffee and ate a diet heavy in eggs and dairy products. Many stories later tried to explain exactly what happened. Some reports claimed shellfish poisoning triggered the crisis, although Marty had been a vegetarian since childhood. Others suggested food poisoning, altitude-related lung trouble, or an overdose. None of those theories replaced the cause announced by his manager, Michael Maslansky, a massive heart attack. Marty had been in Mexico City since October 19, 1982, and the movie was almost complete. On December 2nd, he was waiting in his hotel room in case the crew needed him for another shot. An editor's note in his later autobiography said Graham Chapman was with him when he died. Marty was 48 years old. He had survived poverty, bullying, illness, failed acts, brutal deadlines, and Hollywood disappointment, only to die while trying to rebuild his career. Yellowbeard was finished and dedicated to him, but later failed at the box office. Chapman tried to hold on to one kind thought. He said he took pleasure in knowing Marty was back on form for his final role. The comment could not remove the shock. Friends had expected another joke, another project, or another battle with a studio. Instead, Marty's body was flown from Mexico to California. Loretta waited there as his widow, while the comedy world prepared to say goodbye to a man nobody had ever expected to lose so soon. His final joke left everyone heartbroken. Marty Feldman's funeral was held on December 6, 1982, at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills. About 100 relatives and friends attended. Among them were Mel Brooks, Cheech Marin, Dom DeLuise, and other colleagues. A five-piece band played Dixieland jazz, bringing his first love into the room. Brief Hebrew words were spoken by Rabbi Scott Sperling. The service lasted about 20 minutes and carried laughter beside grief, because a completely solemn farewell would not have suited Marty. His longtime friend, Henry Pollack, said people recognized the love and humanity in him. Marty approached everyone as an equal, Pollack explained, and that was why children loved him. Then he looked toward the casket and offered the kind of line Marty might have respected. Marty Feldman never liked funerals, so I guess he wouldn't have liked this one. But he showed up anyway, didn't he? A moment later, the humor broke. Pollack called the death a terrible joke and said everyone was waiting for Marty to rise and announce that he was all right. Mel Brooks struggled to speak. He called Marty uniquely gifted and said the feelings were too complicated to put into words. "I'll miss him," he said. Marty was buried in the Garden of Heritage, close to Stan Laurel and Buster Keaton, two men who had shaped his love of comedy. His agent noted that Keaton's grave was about 30 yards away and Laurel's about 60. The burial placed Marty beside the silent comedy idol whose work had guided him from childhood into worldwide fame. He left behind Loretta, his mother Cecilia, and sister Pamela, while friends mourned a painfully shortened career. Loretta lived until 2010. After her death, Marty's own account of his life was brought to light and published in 2012 as I.E. Marty, the newly discovered autobiography of a comic genius, with a foreword by Eric Idle. The book returned attention to the writer, rebel, jazz lover, and lonely child hidden behind Igor's stare. Marty once described himself with a line that now sounded painfully exact. "I'm too old to die young, too old to grow up." Do you think Hollywood truly understood Marty Feldman's talent, or did it only remember the face that made him famous? And which part of his heartbreaking story surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more incredible stories from Hollywood's fascinating history. See you next time.